How's it going, everybody? It's been a little while. Hope you guys have been enjoying the new set. I've been kind of busy, so been playing a lot of games, doing a lot of testing myself, trying to get a handle on what's good as we head into our national season. But we do have a Materia Cup this weekend, and I figured that being who I am, people probably would come to me and want to see my thoughts on the metagame moving into it, and get a little bit of a primer, especially if Seattle has a stream, or Portland has a stream. It'd be nice to kind of see ahead of time maybe what's good, what's bad. My intent is to get a tier list video up before that happens, where I can kind of talk about my thoughts on the metagame as a whole. But in the meantime, we do have two store championships up on FFDecks under the new set restrictions and the new ban list. And I wanted to kind of go over some of these decks with you and see what we can learn together. If you also haven't noticed, I'm on a new computer. Any feedback on audio quality and everything else would be appreciated. I haven't had time to set up my layouts on this computer yet, so this is going to be a little bit bare bones and basic for a while. Please bear with me. I'm sure it's not that big of a deal. But so we have the Seattle Store Championship at Zulu's Board Game Cafe, and the winning list has probably been the one that I've seen take off the most. And this is Mono Lightning Scions. So I think Scions are probably one of the best new decks in the format, which I didn't expect actually. I think if you listen to me do my set reviews, I said that I thought the cards were good, but that they facilitated a type of game plan that wasn't particularly interesting. It didn't do anything that 13 didn't do better. And as I tend to be sometimes in set review, I was wrong. I completely underestimated some of the new tools they were given, and I think a lot of them are quite good and actually form a much more comprehensive package than I thought. So this is Mono Lightning Scions. You can see we do have the 3 copies of Fire Lightning Ishtola as a extra card. I imagine this isn't ever cast. It's mostly either to be revived off of Alize, or probably even more likely it's special fodder for the 16 Legend. But I think this is interesting. Mono Lightning really hasn't been a deck since I started playing all the way back in Opus 12. It's been by far the weakest mono element, and really a lot of that has been a lack of card advantage for Lightning. A lot of its card advantage is intended to come from its ability to outright break small things, and then it tries to go fast enough to beat the opponent's face in before they get there. This is interesting because usually those decks are intended to be aggressive, and I don't think that's really the case here. So, as you notice, we have a Mono Lightning backup line to pair with a Scion engine alongside just some good stuff cards. So, interestingly, we're on a full 3 copies of Shinryu. I think this isn't a bad call for early metagame decisions, just given that early metas tend to be very aggressive and try to run the opponent down very quickly. Shinryu combined with Aranea, Edea, the Odins and the Ramus, this deck is very burst heavy. It's going to be able to handle things very well. Is that you look at stuff like the Edea. I don't think this Edea has seen play in the entire time that I've been playing. She's kind of like a worse Aranea, but worse Aranea in context is really not a big deal. You would play worse Aranea if you're already on 3 copies of her, which they are. So we have Hyo as our control payload to win the game. I actually really like Hyo in Mono Lightning decks. Part of the reason he's never had a chance to shine until now is because a lot of what makes Hyo actually a good card requires a Mono Lightning deck to function. If you tap it back up to play Hyo, you probably want to give him haste and 1,000 power that turn, and you still probably want to do with or 10,000. And a lot of these feel a lot worse for you to do if your opponent can on the stack snipe the Hyo once you try to make his power 7,000. If all your backups are lightning, this just says tap a backup to cancel as I try to power up Hyo, right? There's a lot of value in that. Kind of makes Hyo this really interesting scaling threat. The full Ishtola, Grahatia, Alize, Estinian. Lots of 3-ofs. Always fantastic to see that. Usually that's a sign of a pretty polished deck at that point. And it's very interesting seeing the summons. I haven't seen this Ramu come up because, again, it's like a Mono Lightning summon, and Mono Lightning hasn't really been playable. I don't know if I think that's the best card. I mean, I know we're going for EX Burst, but like we're only on 18. bumping by 3 to play a suboptimal summon, I think, is a little bit questionable. I would rather see like the last set's Ramu to like be a free cast and like turn playing like a Hyo or a Alize into a 2-for-1. But I get what they're going for here, and maybe there just isn't a better slot for this. But I feel like there's something we could run in this better, especially like we're not running any Ixians and we don't have any low cost forwards in our deck. We're not running any forward Alfino, which I think is interesting. I think that's actually giving up one of Scions' best tools in the ability to kind of treat Alfino as an Infernity Archfiend for any of my Yu-Gi-Oh friends in the audience. You get to kind of bring this Alfino in and out of play with Alize and Grahatia and essentially toolbox your deck. Cards like Felthanos, I don't want to run it multiple copies, but if you can search them in the matchups, they're good. Namely, any ice deck really doesn't have a convincing out to Felthanos. However, this does enable them to get Louisoix into Alfino as a backup engine, and then also once that's down, you can start using Alize to bring back Y'shtola, which is just extremely potent. Y'shtola with another Scion on board has been very good since about Opus 17 when they printed the new set of Scions in that set. We have President Shinra as another backup engine. So we have 2 backup engines, 3 Weavers to try to get our backups done quickly, as well as to also get our Grahatias into play as a 10k beat stick. And then the one of Reeve, the one of Ricard. All of these make a lot of sense. I think the backup lineup is generally pretty smart. I wish there was another target other than Alfino, just because, again, the Fire Alfino is so good when you can flicker him over and over again. But there's really not another like backup engine. You'd have to like almost run another set of like standard unit backups at that point. But like you still want to run 2 Louisoix in that engine anyway, so you only have like 2 backup slots if you cut the Alfino, and you're going to be a lot less consistently getting your backups down. So those Weavers are going to be a lot less alive. Maybe like a second Ricard to kind of dig for your President Shinra more. Run a 3rd Shinra, 2 Louisoix. I think it's an interesting list. I am not sold on this. And the biggest reason why is this deck is not... It has the ability to end the game quickly, but it's not really doing that, right? We're definitely looking to get backups down and scale and use those as payloads before kind of transitioning into this, like... Think of it as like how Mono Water's goal was get 5 backups, get Lena Leviathan, and kill the opponent. This is get 5 backups down, clear their field with a Shinryu or like Aranea, Idia, or like an Y'shtola, and then get in for game with like a Hyo. I don't know if that game plan is as good as it is in Mono Water. We're going to be a lot less consistent for sure. I do also think it's unfortunate that Y'shtola is going to kill your own Felthanos and your own Aranea, but I think there's a lot to look at here. I think this is a deck that has a lot of potential. I think if this gets more refined, we might actually have something on our hands here. As far as the rest of them, we have looks like a Une Earth Water list. Yeah, this is pretty normal. Interesting to see the one Delita actually. Are we casting that? The 2 Shantotos. We have Fenrir in here? Do you have Fenrir? Okay, Delita's actually a pretty decent Fenrir target, so I sort of get it. Opus 9 Porum, Sophie, Sarah, Garnet. Yeah, just big Chaos Arc, Une stuff. I've seen this with backup, or with forward Una now as well. Steve D did a very interesting deck tech on how that would work. I don't know if I like one or the other better. I do actually will say I think this Kolka is way better than the discard to do damage one. I get that like you want to get the Chaos and Arc out of your hand, but searching Galuf in the matchups where Galuf matters, I think is significantly more important. And in the matchups where Galuf doesn't matter, probably Une or Gabranth or getting even Sophie into the break zone matters more. Lots of toolboxing, lots of interesting ideas. I love this Fenrir still. It's still one of my favorite cards in the game. Maybe a little low on water summons. I'd almost like to see like a Cucullin or something come in, but... And actually, what's interesting, we're on the full Blue Worm Tonberry package as well. You don't usually see that in Earthwater summons just because, in general, a lot of times when you're casting Blue Worm, you're kind of paying the card in hand to cycle and then try to draw, like, so spend a point of damage essentially. But if you're on Chaos Arc, you're not necessarily concerned with doing that damage. You're more concerned with getting to the point of inevitability where Chaos and Arc wins you the game with Une on field, right? And I don't know that the Blue Worms and Tomberries further that. I will say Tomberry is just a good card in general as far as like threatening removal on anything that attacks if they don't have a response in hand. It just kind of makes for like very gummy, sticky board states. But and like Blue Worm is never a bad card, but when we're talking about something where we have the Chaoses and the Arcs, that might be better served to be to bump the poo poo and the Moogle count up to where we feel more comfortable with those. We have a mono fire deck. These always do well, especially like early on in an Opus. Ace is just a good card. Actually surprised to not see any Tidus, so you can get like the Tidus Ace combo off. Belias the Gigas, especially paired with something like an Ace or Belias and Demon. Like giving the Demon haste is actually really obnoxious. Goblins are just good as well. Goblin give the Demon haste. You can kind of suspend this for a turn and then go Demon. Double ping Demon is really good. So it's really funny seeing just like how many bad Aikido Cadet forwards are, or Aikido Cadet backups are now being chosen just because of Miyu. Obviously, Mutsuki is the more common one you'll see, just because like sometimes running of damage matters. But even seeing the Carla in here to try to add more targets from Miyu. The Selfie, the Saz, the Moody. Only one Geomancer. I'm actually surprised. This is almost always a 3-Evan Fireless. So yeah, I mean, this does what Monofire always does. In archetype access to Amaterasu is always good. Ace is a very undercosted forward. The Demon is wildly good. I almost would rather see something other than like the Susano, just because the Demon I feel like probably covers that slot really well, especially when you factor in the two selfies. But overall, I think this is definitely a solid list. Old Lock Goods. This is 6 tricolor, so we can run copies of the Fiend. And we're using this is a title variant. We're on 5 CP lock. I'm a bigger fan of 3 CP lock just because the lower deck building restrictions allow you to play water a lot more comfortably. Biggest problem with water in this is that the only water backup in 6, or water backups, are Auser and Strago, neither of which pairs particularly well with the deck. So you have to like kind of use your water cards in hand to pay for your water cards. I do really like the Fiend in 6 though. It's searchable off of Sid in the matchups where it's good. It's recurable with Edgar. Interesting to see us split our Setzers a little bit actually. But this seems like it's gonna do what it's gonna do. I would like to have seen one copy of New Celise in here. Curious how number 24 did for them. A lot of text in this card reads very well, but it is just a big beat stick, and big beat sticks tend to not be the name of the game in Final Fantasy. The Demon being an archetype for 6 is really cool. Would be interested to see if running a Kefka, if you run like a full 3 Fiend, 3 Demon package, would ever be worth it, and see how that performs. I like the list, but I'm curious to see what people do with the new lock more so than this one. Again, I just think it opens up so many more deck building possibilities when you run 30 Category 6 cards instead of 50 Category 6 characters, right? Crystal Ignis Control, so this is like an Ice Earth, using Ignis as a way to give ourselves inevitability. Lots of breakable backups in Earth, and oh my goodness, 21 backups. Wow. I mean you need that many to make Miner a good card, so I get it, but wow. The Nangmalada, we have a full 5 Crystal Gem backups there. Would have liked to have seen the Materia over like. Yeah, I mean we're only on 4 Crystal Gem backups for our Robo. Maybe we do need that. Interesting to see that Opus 20 Noct is actually in here as well as a one of. Star Sybil. and play Ignis. Star Sibyl Ignis is actually a really nasty combo if you haven't seen it. We have a normal monster package. Really not a fan of Astroprotoflorian in Ice Earth, just given that it's like, even if you play this off of a Larcacus, you've paid 1 Earth for Larcacus, and then you still have to pay Earth for both of Astroprotoflorian's effects. And there's not a way to like make advantage of Astro once it's on the field. I really just prefer the classic Mandragora. Just break the big backups, and if it's good, and if not, then you just kind of deal with it. There aren't enough backups that don't cost 5 that you're like really dying to get off the field, right? Wicked Mask, that's a new one. You don't usually see, we haven't seen those in the past because it didn't exist. Protecting your Roble or your Physalis or your Ignis makes a lot of sense. Would be pretty good here. Not too much more to say than that. Kind of one of each summon is a little bit strange. But this is going to do what Ice Earth has always done, I think. 2 Prish, wow. That's actually a little surprising as well. Earth Fire, this is going to be 7 Earth Fire. Magic Pot. Oh, this is Ject shenanigans. So we can Magic Pot this Ject into another copy of the same Ject. Get like a demon or something. Yeah. So this is attempting to Magic Pot Ject early and often, right? Which is why the going out for milk and cigarettes thing is a meme. When you do that, then it also is kind of a nice idea to run the Zacs in here, which they're on. You can use the Magic Pot on Zac, get a second Zac out of the deck, and then turn that into one of your Sephiroths or a Cloud while keeping the card advantage on field. Magic Pot's just a really interesting card. There's always a lot of like potential with this card, as long as you're able to take the turn off. This is going... But I also like this in Earth Fire, actually, because Earth Fire should, in theory, be very good at slowing down aggression. Oh, that's really cool, actually. I realized the game plan. So you go Magic Pot with Opus 20 Ject, get a Demon or a BFA out of the deck, you have removal for the rest of the game, and then you have a Ject with at least 2, 4, 6 other Jects still in the deck to protect your Demon for infinite removal and then infinite negation. And if we have any kind of recursion, which we have the 3 Kusiths in the list as well, the Kate Sith 11, the Selfie to get back our Jects, we can kind of just protect our board and go from there. The Death Lord as well can kind of get us through it. I actually think this is a really creative list. I really like this one. It's super interesting. Even something like the Magic Pot is like Magic Pot, the Zac, get this Sephiroth out, break a Dull forward, and then threaten the attacks next turn if they don't do anything about it. We have a pretty high 7 count as well. Yeah, 15-7 cards. So this Cloud is very difficult to deal with. Kudos. This is a really cool list. Mira, Magic Pot, Bosch. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, that's cool. Okay, this list is cool. I don't know if it's the best list ever, but I think it's really cool. Turkish Delights. This is Ice Lightning Turks. Yes. 33-7 cards in the list. Cloud is getting major value here. Angeal, I haven't seen in every one of these lists. Only 2 Vincent. I really like... I like seeing 3 Vincent, 3 Zeromas, just because of how much they can really stun your opponent and lock them out of the game. Which is what kind of Ice Lightning is looking to do. Is just make it awkward for your opponent to play early and often. 3 Rufus, the 1 Estinian is a finisher. Yeah, this all looks pretty normal. The Madius to help with that as well. Ixion is essentially one-sided because we don't have any small forwards in our deck, or that many that we care about. Is Biblos the right call for a monster if we're going to run one? It's not bad. We do have like Weiss, Sephiroth, and Rufus, so like doubling down on that could be really good. We do have the Restrictor, Narrow Weiss, Reeve, Kate Sith, Vincent. Would like to see the Reeves bumped up a little bit. So we're just stacking all the engines in, and then also throwing Unalesca as well to try to like come ahead on advantage. I also don't hate the idea of, instead of this cloud, running Aerith and just using that to recur back, a Sephiroth and a Rufus for essentially nothing. But this looks like pretty normal Ice Lightning. No Al Cid. He's kind of started to fall out of this, just as like a lot of people say he feels a little more win more. I don't really think I agree with that, but I definitely get the logic and where they're coming from on it. It is a little awkward because the Turks package doesn't appreciate Duke Larg very much, which I actually really liked in Ice Lightning, given, if you went with the traditional package, Alcid's an 8K, Sephiroth is 8K, Zeromus is 8K. It just becomes very hard to use a lot of your traditional board clears to get through when you have to do 9K instead of 8K. And I find that even though it's a slow backup that doesn't help you that much, it does make it a lot more. You kind of negate a lot of cards in your opponent's hand before they ever play them by having a Duke Larg on field. But I don't think that the Turks package lends itself very well to that. You're still going to lose your Reno and your Rufus, and the one you want to die is going to live. So regardless, this looks. I'd say this is about as stock standard a Ice Lightning 7 list is going to do. I'd expect that to do pretty well. And okay, so this is Magisa. I see the 3 Magisa. We have stuff like the Palams. I feel like we should have a Mont Blanc in here over one of the Palams. Not gonna lie. Pretty normal stuff. I'm not a huge fan of some other summon choices. I also wouldn't mind seeing the 3 Hedgehog Pies. You can search it with Magisa, Alfino, and then you just have it the rest of the game. Like the next 3 Magisa pings are already accounted for at that point. We are running a lot of summons, so they're probably trying to get the Braska to do it. You can go like Aeolus, Warrior of Light, to ping your own Magisa every turn with the Warrior of Light. I don't know how much I think the Demon really fits in this list. I feel like you're trying to go fast enough where this isn't helping you, but like maybe it's like a 1-0 to be searchable off of Alfino, but I mean the Demon is a good card, but like generally Magisa lists tend to play with very low cards in hand, and like they're kind of slow to card backups as well, because they're really trying to, I mean like one of your 13 backups is a Larcacus. We're really not getting a discount on the Demon from having 5 backups and pitching a card from hand. So it's a very dead top deck if you're emptying your hand, which you probably have to cast your stuff like your Amaterasu or your Ifrit and such. I also wonder how good Ifrit. I mean, Ifrit, I guess, is just good in general. 1 mana ping Magisa for 5 is good. Especially then when later on in the game you get to do that and maybe kill a small thing on the field. I get the idea. I'll put it that way. And then we have the Store Championship Brisbane. Don't know the player count for this one, so winning deck was a Rydia Cecil list. Not too dissimilar from what Steve D did with his. Couple like small things that I would change. I'm a big fan, big believer of Loporrit, and I would run the Loporrits over the Thordons because it also allows you to run just 2 Cecils. If you have fewer Cecils in your deck, then if you draw them, you could put the dead ones back in the deck later on if you want to with the Loporrit, so you could pull them out with the Dark Knight Cecil, right? Sarah only search targets Princess Sarah. That makes sense. Wouldn't mind the one of Kolka. Kate Sith. We're really trying to make sure our backups can't lock us out of Warrior of Light, which again is kind of where I really like Loporrit. Loporrit allows you to break it so you can't lock your backups out of it, no matter what you do. 3 Amaterasu. We're very, very heavy on our summons. The 3 Mist Dragon makes a lot of sense. One of the biggest counters to Rydia is Ixion. Mist Dragon says it's not a thing. Only 13 summons makes me a little nervous that we're going to struggle to get value out of our Rydia. I think I'm on, I want to say 15 summons. Let me actually check my own current list real quick. I'm on 16 summons personally, which just makes it a lot easier to keep them, especially because I don't see any draw power in summons here. So like our draw power is like free cast a Cucullin to cycle it with Rydia, but we're not really digging, we're not increasing our hand size when we're doing that, right? So I think this is pretty normal. This is what I would call relatively standard. And I think that personally this style of deck is the best deck in the format currently. I really, really, really think this is... It's incredibly difficult to play against this. Even like 13, which used to be like a difficult matchup now, you might say, well, there's no Galif. How do you handle that? Like when you can't go Sildra for Galif. You just get a Cecil, slam a Cecil, slam an Une, and you kind of Cecil pull a Warrior of Light from your hand onto the field, and they just don't get to play the game. Especially if you can like hold a Mist Dragon at that point or an Amaterasu, it becomes very difficult for 13 to play the game at that point. So I think this looks good. The nice thing about the Thornton is it does increase the EX burst count, and there was nothing crazier than hitting an EX burst off of the discounted Cecil cast. So going through, we have another Cat 6 list. This is not a title deck. You see we're on the Andoria. So if you're not aware, Andoria with this lock in the party actually does draw off of the lock trigger if lock is one of the attacking forwards. So like Setzer Andoria lock is like draw 2, freeze 1, and do 2 damage because like they're not blocking your party. I actually like adding the 4-drop Celeste to that because then it's either add back of category 4 or category 6 character or freeze 2 more characters. So you can kind of just lock your opponent out of the game indefinitely if you get like Setzer, Lock, Andoria, Celeste on field. Again, Edgar, Fiend, I really like. Full 3 Demons, actually a little surprising. Strago's really, really good on this list. Gao is crazy. And this is what running this lock enables us to do, by the way. You'll notice that, sure, all of our forwards are category 6. They don't even have to be, by the way. You can run a 1 of Noctis now. And feel pretty good about now having access to Monster Break, which is something that Cat 6 has struggled with historically. Extra card draw off of Noctis is great. We get to run Amaterasu again. We get to run Unicorn. You can't run Unicorn even though it's category 6 because Opus 15 lock does not add summons, it only adds characters. So that actually adds a lot of value to the list that we can now play a lot of really powerful reactive summons. And we get to run the Andoria now. If there's like a really specific fire or ice backup that we want, we can use those now too. I think there's just a lot of value in that. Like you see, we're still on 44 6 cards. And I guess 42, but you only need to run 30. Like 30 is the magic number. Once you hit 30, you're good. You know, we could cut, say, yeah, it's like one of the Fiends for a Noctis or one of the Demons for a Noctis, and I'd feel pretty good about that. I'd be curious how the Magius actually felt. I mean, I guess like it's really nice to recur with Terra potentially, but since it's not searchable and we have so much like freezing on backups anyway, I wonder how much use you really would get out of that. I feel like this just might not be the right list for a Magius, but Mono Water, only 2 Loporrits? Are you kidding me? Come on, it's the best backup in the deck. Run 3. You do see that Mono Water's had to adjust. It's running a lot more backups now. Interesting to see Amo. I would not have expected to see her come out as one of the backups. only one Geomancer. We're having to hard draw our units again, so we're back on 3 Razzler to protect our Ash. Okay. Sure. I mean, I don't know how often we're outright breaking a 6 CP forward, but rest of these seem relatively normal. I feel a little afraid of, like, we're on Owaka when Marrowweb still isn't used. Like, we should be on Marrowweb instead, I feel like. Only 2 blue worms. We do have a lot of summons. We have a lot of instant speed interaction. We have the Porum to kind of help with that. The 3 lightnings, Lena, Fiend, 2 Shinryus to kind of get whatever we need. I mean, I think this would work just because Loporrit is such a ridiculous card, but and Sarah for Gordon is really, really powerful. Wouldn't mind seeing a Hilda as well, because once we get the Gordon, we don't have any other targets, unless I'm mistaken. Yeah, 3 princesses, and the only prince is... Oh no, Razzler's also a prince. We have 2 targets. But, yeah, I mean, this is doing what Mono Water does, just this time with more forwards and less backups. So this is another Rydia list. This time we're on Shinryu, which is interesting. We're on this Porum. I like the Legend Porum as well. I'm always a little afraid running this one, just given I think the Fiend is a very problematic card for Rydia to deal with. Otherwise, this Shinryu. Huh. And there's no tuck effect. There's no way to get this out of the hand once it's there. Pretty normal otherwise. Not too much to say. Okay, we're getting a little deeper, and this video is already 30 minutes long, so I'm gonna kind of... This is like this is a Rampair list, it looks like. I'd be curious how consistent this is. I do not have time. Yeah, we have Mystic, so we're definitely trying to like pop Rampair and do shenanigans with that. Ignis with that. Do we have? Oh, we do have the Noctises as well. We have 14 win cards. King Tycoon, Simulafina, Prompto. Okay. Yeah, that looks like Rampair. If a bit weird. Firewind 7. So this is kind of... Oh, wrong Chocobo. Essentially, this is kind of playing off of Yuffie just being a good card. I did note this combo earlier where you could go this Tifa and this Yuffie, and your opponent can't block any of your forwards that turn. Which is definitely cool. Genova Dreamweaver would also fulfill it for Tifa. No Amat. I'm actually surprised to see that. Loyalty to cascade into a win card. Jige, Elfie, Princess Goblin, Kuchaspel. Yes, this looks like kind of like a Yuffie control list that has the ability to go Tifa Yuffie or Tifa Genova Dreamweaver for game. That seems cool. So we're using Brynhildr to kind of add to our small ping as well. Giving Yuffie a little bit of extra reach is probably not bad. Giving Squall some extra reach, it's not bad. Giving our goblins some reach. I could get behind this. Okay, more Magisa. It's like a Fire Lightning Magisa list. The 3 Hedgehog Pies. We've got our Magisa pings on lock. A lot of backups for a Magisa list as well. It's very interesting. Not too much to say there. Lastly, this is like an Earthwind, not even on Tifa actually. It's like an Earthwind unblockables. We have Yuffie, Yuri, Shilinka. Oh, that Yuri. Hmm. Oh, I get it. Yuffie slash Yuri, Mira, Shilinka, and Arc, I guess, is why it's YMCA. Hmm. Wonder how often this Yuri is live. Like, when do we go for this Yuri versus the untargetable one? So I would have expected this to be the other way around. Because 2 CP for a, what is it, a draw, 4K ping, a dull freeze, or a Cullen seems kind of expensive in today's metagame. I mean, this one's very good. Like, even if it's just Norstahl and Leo, Yuri, you're probably in a decent spot. Illyria, we're really leaning in on those. Zombie to get back our Mira. Why this Mira? Like, we only have the zombies. Like we're gonna whiff a lot with this. Hmm. It's just like a like. I mean, like you can do this Mira if you hit the zombie, play the zombie, get a Mira back. When you attack with the zombie, you can use the Mira to protect the zombie, but you're still like losing a forward that was 1 or 0 CP when you do that. You're not really gaining anything, right? I think it's a little strange, but I mean, there's interesting ideas here. I don't know if this is the Yuri Chilinka deck that I would build, but I sort of get some of what it's going for. Anyways, that's 37 minutes. Tier list video hopefully tomorrow. If not tomorrow, we'll aim for Friday night. Let me know what you guys thought. If you guys enjoyed this, if there's anything y'all are excited about in the new set. If you guys want to just tell me how awesome I am, I'm okay with that as well. And yeah, thanks for hanging out.